Well, by now, I'm sure most of you have actually seen these tiny house communities and their reason for being in existence. But where did they come from? And how was the idea created? Well, I'm delighted to be joined today by Amy King, the co-founder of Pallet, the people that came up with these remarkable structures.
My husband, as a general contractor, and actually is also a trained firefighter, he came up with the concept for Pallet initially in response to disasters, which is another market that we seek to serve as well. So the thought was, after Hurricane Katrina, if we could create a panelized, easy to construct house that was, lightweight and affordable and cost effective and all these things, then we could provide shelter and housing to people affordably and quickly. And then as we started building housing and the homeless crisis grew, and we saw more and more people coming out onto the streets in cities across America, we said, we have this idea for this thing, and maybe this could be useful for homelessness. And so we took it to our staff, most of which have had experience with homelessness, and we said, what about this? Would this be useful? And they almost unanimously said, you guys have to do this. We want to help you. We want to build it.
There's been so much effort towards the unhoused problem across this country and beyond. But you still need to convince governmental agencies and or nonprofit organizations that this is viable and this is supportable and this is something they should do. So where was the test case?
Our initial customer was the city of Tacoma, which is a local city just south of Seattle. We actually met them at a disaster response show. So once we had our first iteration in place and we made our first unit rolled off the line, we started taking it to trade shows, mostly for disaster response. And so our very first community is actually for people experiencing homelessness, but under the umbrella of a disaster.
These do have, for lack of a better word, a shelf life in terms of their usefulness towards someone.
That's right. I mean, they're meant to last a long time and be very durable, and they have other uses. And so we often encourage cities to try things like put them up for a while, and if you don't need them anymore, you can break them down. They're panelized, you can store them, and then you can take them out if you have a wildfire or a disaster event and use them for survivors or responders. So they have a lot of versatility in that way. But when we're talking about homelessness, the intent here is not for someone to live here forever. That's not why we created this, and this is not a way that someone should live forever. We don't think that. We never have thought that. This is not a substitute for permanent housing.
What are the technical and practical things that have made these cost-effective and cost-efficient? I mean, you just said that they can be broken down and put together quickly. The materials, the insulation. What is it on a very engineering standpoint?
So our product is made from material that is mold, mildew, and rot resistant, and it's very lightweight. So that was part of the specification. We wanted something simple to put together, simple to store, that two people could easily pick up any panel, and we could put them together in an hour or less, which is kind of the average time. And so one of the really key parts to the success of Pallet is that we don't use traditional construction materials. So a lot of people ask about that. Why did you choose this material type? Well, traditional construction materials are heavy. They're now very expensive. They weren't when we started Pallet, but they're very expensive now because of supply chain issues. And they make it really hard to put things together. And we see this a lot with innovation in construction as well. You see modular, you see all kinds of really cool stuff coming to market. But it's hard to navigate because everything is inside the walls and it's hard to see. And so we tried to take all of our knowledge of the construction industry, the things that were cost prohibitive, that were time intensive, and we stripped all that out. So one example, our floors, the bases that the units sit on, they include a structural element underneath that we designed and engineered and put underneath the floor so that you don't have to pour a foundation if you don't want to. Concrete for foundations is incredibly expensive. Excavation and dirt moving is incredibly expensive, one of the most expensive parts of permanent construction. And so we took that knowledge and said, what do we need to strip out? Lumber packages are expensive. All the structural stuff is really expensive. Can we do that another way and still meet code requirements? So we were able to build a product that meets the standard code requirements, but uses alternative materials so that it meets the specifications.
Is it easy to build them? I mean, do you need a special crew to come in, or is it something that you can put in a kit that say, A plus B equals a house?
Yeah, so we do have some customers that put them together themselves. It just depends on, if they want to try that. We love job creation. If if that wasn't obvious from before. We love creating jobs for people. We love workforce development. And so for us, the setup of our units is another opportunity to create jobs. So whenever and wherever we can, we try to do the deployments in the cities that we come to, and we try to partner with local organizations to do that so that we're creating jobs locally. So for example, these shelters and the other shelters around the city of Los Angeles have been constructed by the LA Conservation Corps primarily. So we have 1 or 2 pallet staff that come down, they supervise and train the individuals that are participating with the Conservation Corps, and those individuals are getting a chance to try out the construction industry, which we want them to get into, and they get a job opportunity, and they get exposure to a really cool project in their community that's helping people that are maybe underserved. So it's a win-win for everyone, and they get paid to do that work as well.
Who are you hearing from? Because now cities obviously are recognizing it. You know, Governor Newsom's put an enormous amount of money into the California budget for addressing low-income housing and homelessness. Are you hearing from a lot of other states that are looking towards what you've done on the West Coast and all these other communities that you've?
Yeah. So we're getting a lot of interest right now, which we're very grateful for. Cities across the country are interested in what we're doing. And in California, we've had a great deal of success because of great forward-thinking, innovative cities like Los Angeles, and the mayor's office and the city council members really stepping up and engaging and embracing innovation. I think what we were able to do here, even just with this initial Chandler site, and Councilmember Krikorian was a great champion for this. This was so successful. I mean, it had its issues and whatnot, but it was a very successful setup. It's been a successful site and place for people to come. And there's been so much great coverage of it that cities across the country have seen that and said, wow, this is amazing. Maybe we could try that in our city. What we're seeing is a lot of cities thinking about maximum land utilization, which is part of what this was designed around as well. So you think about the city that you live in, and there's sites everywhere that are just sitting there, relatively unusable, or they appear to be unusable. And the reality is you might not be able to, or you probably can't put a permanent housing product there, or maybe you can, but it's going to take 2 or 3 years to get through permitting and design. So the whole concept was, don't waste this opportunity to use this great piece of land to bring people inside and provide housing. This is that solution. We can set up really fast, we can take down even faster, and you can eventually turn that site into something else if you want to. And I think what cities like about it is that it's versatile and flexible. They can try it on for a while. If they don't like it, they can move the site to another location. If they want to eventually develop that location into permanent housing or a community space, they can do that and not waste their investment, because then now they have this product that they can use in another location for the same purpose or for a different purpose.
What are you hearing from other construction companies? Are people trying to come in and say, how did you do it, and can we do it too, and do you mind if we steal your patent, and what can we do, and are you okay with that?
Yes, I am absolutely okay with that. So our goal is to end unsheltered homelessness. I can't do that by myself, nor do I intend to. I mean, Pallet is one idea of many amazing ideas. We welcome competition in the space. We want people to come up with more innovative ideas. We need more housing. Everybody agrees with that, both temporary and permanent. And it's going to take a lot of amazing minds to come up with those solutions. So we produce about 50 shelters a week. We're ramping up to 100 a week. There are over 500,000 people in America sleeping outside. It would take me forever to shelter them all. So the more people that we can get in this space, the better.
Once the villages have been put into place, there are organizations that actually sort of manage the facilities and make sure the services are provided, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So Pallet actually has a requirement for our customers, which are often cities, counties, states, sometimes direct service providers. But we have a requirement that in homelessness, when it's used for homelessness response, that the customer show proof that they have contracted with a service provider. That is really the magic of how the rehabilitation happens in these sites, right? The shelter is one thing, it encourages someone to come inside, but the service engagement is what really changes a person's life and helps them move on. So we are super honored to partner with great service provider partners like Hope of the Valley, who operates here, Salvation Army, and many others across the country who are really engaging with people and providing those targeted services that are needed to help them change their trajectory in life.
Well, it's absolutely delightful to speak with you. Thank you for coming down, Amy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time.
And that's a wrap on this LA Currents.